Contrary to popular belief, as much as my horrendous gaming skills would say otherwise, I've been gaming my entire life. Before I was primarily a PC player, I owned an Xbox console all the way from the 360 to the One. That's actually where I played Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4 before I began modding on console. Before that, the very first console I ever bought with my own money was a PlayStation 2 Slim, a machine that I still consider to be the pinnacle of gaming in terms of both at the time computational power as well as physical design. That shit was sleek. And the very first console I ever played on was both the Sega NES as well as the Nintendo 64 that my dad owned. Don't worry, I was awful back then too. I had to ask my dad if he could beat the final Bowser level for me because I was too much of a smooth brain to figure out how to do it myself. To be fair, I was like, 7 or whatever, so my prefrontal cortex hadn't developed so that I could calculate all of the complex information and intricate strategy that goes into, throwing a giant lizard at an explosive. But that's not the point of today's video. The point of my nostalgic rant through my formative years when my joints didn't go off like popcorn in the microwave every time I move is to set the stage, paint a picture for a long and storied legacy of video game history and experience. It's in my DNA. If I'm cut, I don't bleed blood. I bleed pure gamer fuel. I was there when the first shot of the console war was fired, marking the now ancient history of conflict between Xbox and PlayStation fans. And with any luck, I'll see the end of this great conflict within my lifetime, because this shit is just getting embarrassing. While there have always been battlefields of cringe in this overly extended conflict, where each camp has come out as the proverbial loser, the latest theater of war has been over the newly released Xbox exclusive and Bethesda's newest gem, Starfield. Since the game came out, there's been a number of people attempting to figure out how to break or otherwise put excessive strain on the game. It is a Bethesda game after all, so bugs and fun are bound to happen. Players have done things like building invincible ships, spawning in millions of potatoes or milk cartons at the same time, but PlayStation writer Alana Pierce has set the bar by spending over 7 hours attempting to fly from space to the surface of Pluto, only to pass straight through the skybox. Hilarious. This seemingly light-hearted stunt, however, was not as hilarious as everyone thinks, as this brave veteran of the console wars did what far too many were afraid to do. He had the courage, the bravery, nay, the spirit, to call out Alana Pierce to be fired from PlayStation for daring to play an Xbox game on her public Twitch account, citing it as extremely unprofessional and demonstrates a lack of loyalty and seriousness to PlayStation, her employer. Truly, the hero this war didn't know it needed. Of course I'm joking, this guy's a fucking idiot. Now, I do want to make it abundantly clear that I have no issue at all with people who play one console over another. I don't care, it literally doesn't matter to me, and it shouldn't matter to anyone else what expensive hunk of plastic people play video games on. But what the actual fuck is wrong with PlayStation stands? Alana did end up creating a response video briefly talking about the tweet and how just absurd it was. And then she, went about her day because, as she says in the video, she's a grown-ass woman with better things to do than argue with chronically online gamers. However, as it should come as no surprise to anyone, this is not an isolated incident when it comes to people losing their minds over Starfield. Now, let me once again clarify, in case anyone completely ignored the little spiel at the beginning I did there, I have no loyalty to any game developer nor console manufacturer. I've had stupid people in my comments section before saying that I shill for Bethesda because, I don't know, I posted a meme that makes fun of Fallout New Vegas or whatever. Touch grass. That being said, people have lost their fucking minds. In the last few years and months leading up to Starfield's release, ever since it was announced as an Xbox exclusive, PlayStation fanatics have been swearing up and down on their mother's grave that the game would be garbage and that it's destined to fail, that it would not get above a 60 on Metacritic because it was just not possible for Bethesda to release a good game anymore. Fallout 76 and Redfall? Checkmate, loser. How about I checkmate these nuts against your face? By all accounts, by all reasonable and logical accounts, this would be a fantastic Metacritic score, a triumph for Bethesda after their last few games' negative reception. For whatever reason, though, people are just so unapologetically mad about Starfield actually releasing as a solid game that they're throwing temper tantrums like children who were just told that they couldn't have candy off of the shelf. The Metacritic page is getting review bombed to hell and back. Some people even pretending to be well-known gaming journalists to leave negative reviews just to bolster the argument. PlayStation stands are so desperate that there is even a fucking mod on the Nexus that adds the PlayStation Studio splash screen to the game when you boot it up on PC. Like, why are you all down so fucking bad about Starfield not being available on the PlayStation when you claim it's a garbage game anyway? Like, get over yourselves. The most baffling thing to me, though, and I mean, this has all been pretty fucking cringe-inducing anyway, but the biggest shit take I've seen so far has been people comparing PlayStation exclusive games to Starfield and face-planting so hard without even realizing it.
Bro, he's back. This was the individual who was complaining about Starfield not allowing you to land on gas giants. He PlayStation exclusive sold 5 million. Xbox multi-platform, quote, players 1 million. Didn't Fallout 4 sell 14 million at launch? How Bethesda lose 13 million buyers? And this is all because of the post here. Phil Spencer, the Xbox guy, said this: Starfield exceeded 1 million concurrent players across all platforms today. So this person actually thought that concurrent players was the amount of copies the game sold. I don't know what to say.
One of the biggest nonsensical comparisons I've seen has got to be between Starfield and God of War Ragnarok, with the prominent focal point being around how many copies each game sold in a specific amount of time, with people noting that Starfield only sold 1 million copies in its first day, whereas Ragnarok sold around 5 million in its first week. Except those numbers are heavily misrepresented, as Starfield sold 6 million copies on just the first day. This also doesn't take into account, super obvious things like Starfield and Ragnarok being completely different kinds of gaming experiences, but more importantly, it doesn't take into account something even more pressing and frankly, a little embarrassing for PlayStation fanatics. Ragnarok is the 14th game in a series that's almost 20 years old at this point. The God of War franchise is almost old enough to legally drink, and in the first week, it sold over 5 million copies. By all accounts, that is a phenomenal success, especially since it won like almost every single award at the 2020 Gaming Awards, and rightfully so. However, when you compare that to Starfield, a brand new IP that sold a week's worth of games in just one day, it looks pretty fucking embarrassing for PlayStation to have been so devastatingly blown out of the water like that. Hell, we can go even a step more extreme, a step further. We can go plus ultra with this shit. Final Fantasy XVI, the latest entry in a franchise that released in the fucking 80s and has been literally the PlayStation games, one of the most beloved game series of all times, sold just above 3 million copies in its first week, and it was available on both PlayStation and Xbox. Now, Toshi, you might be saying, I think you're being a little harsh. These are all just isolated incidences, and they don't show any real pattern of aggression or brain rot. You know what's gonna happen next, right? I'm gonna prove them wrong. Xbox stands have done some really stupid stuff, for sure. The quintessential gamer, angry, downing Red Bull and Mountain Dew and handful of Doritos, That's gamer. That's Xbox. Xbox Live lobbies, all that shit. That's Xbox. They undoubtedly, that is the quintessential gamer. However, do any of you remember the guy who got so unapologetically mad that the 2018 Spider-Man game was going to be ported to PC that he actually cut his Spider-Man themed PS4 in half? Back in 2022, fellow YouTuber and formerly PlayStation's Most Wanted, Blaze4K, followed through with a threat he made to the massive gaming corporation to cut his Spider-Man themed PS4 in half as retribution for the game maker's decision to port Spider-Man to the PC. Naturally, the internet had many thoughts about that, mostly negative. He had a few articles written about him, and then everything just sort of went back to normal, just with a bad taste left in everybody's mouth. Now, to be completely honest, it doesn't seem like Blaze was all too serious about his stance, and while yes, he did actually cut his console in half, the video itself, as well as the description and some other older tweets involved around it, seem to be painting the whole situation as more of a bit, a joke based on the extremeness of it all, which I can respect. Scanning his Twitter account, it actually looks like he's been playing Starfield himself, so props to him for branching out. While the whole Blaze incident may have turned out to just be an exaggerated bit, it no less had an effect on the larger conversation around exclusivity and the whole console war phenomenon, as well as those who take it to that nth degree when it comes to, dumb, no doubt sparking other, less media-savvy people to adopt a much more radical stance when it comes to voicing their displeasure. Of course, I am in no way saying that Blaze's action, nor the actions of anyone else in particular, led to the outcome where PlayStation stans are review bombing Starfield or just out and out lying on podcasts about playing the game in order to create some sort of propped up straw man argument.
But I want to say one thing though. It's a disappointment.
I mean, how much have you played?
Like 3 hours.
Okay, and what's disappointing about it to you?
First of all, I thought the intro was horrendous. It just was very lackluster. Like if you compare it to Skyrim, immediately you're fighting a dragon and then you're sent out into the world to do anything you want. Like literally anything you want.
Do you think that was the choices you made? What is her name? Lynn or Lim, the lady who's your boss? Do you think part of it is just the fact that she asked you to burn the bodies and shit, and it should be more of a choice?
That's some of it.
I mean, that didn't happen at all in the game, so I'm assuming you haven't played it yet, correct?
But what I am saying is that they're fucking cringe as hell. Anyone comparing Starfield to PlayStation exclusives like Spider-Man or Horizon Zero Dawn or whatever else are not making a well-structured nor a good faith argument. Starfield, nor otherwise, benefit. And in actuality, it devalues both games. As we all know, the quickest way to kill something special is to compare it to something else. But hey, these are just my thoughts, and now I want to hear yours. What are your thoughts on Starfield? Have you been playing it? Have you been enjoying it? What features would you like to see added to Bethesda's massive space opera? Let me know down in the comments section below. Until next time, I thank you all so much for watching. Like and subscribe and stuff. Become a member today, and I will see you all out there in the wasteland.